The handshake deals are a memory. The loyalty of the old guard, that's a luxury of the past. Welcome to the era of the arms race. In the 919, the battle for the future isn't just happening on the hardwood, it's happening in the bank accounts. Down in Durham, it's the machine, a proven system, and the steady hand of John Scheyer reloading for another run. But in Chapel Hill, the blueprint has been ripped up.
Welcome to Season 8, Episode 17 in the 919. The weather's heating up, and the rivalry stakes for the future of the Triangle have never been higher. For a decade, this rivalry was about lineage and the Carolina way, but today, the rules of engagement have changed. We're officially in the era of the arms race. In Durham, Jon Scheyer and general manager Rachel Baker have built a modern machine. They're locking down 5 stars, maximizing Nike-led global partnerships, and showing that the Duke brand is a professional pipeline for players before they ever hit the NBA. But down the road in Chapel Hill, the blueprint has been ripped up. Mike Malone has arrived from the Denver Nuggets with a championship ring and an NBA arsenal. He isn't just bringing pro-level schemes. He's joined at the hip with GM Jim Tanner, a man who spent decades negotiating billions of dollars in contracts in the NBA as an agent. The question is this just about who wins on the hardwood anymore. It's about who's building the better organization. Today, Darryl and I are pulling back the curtain on the front office. We're breaking down the Tanner-Malone relationship versus the Baker Scheyer machine. Who owns the better blueprint for 26-27? Can Malone close the gap, or is Scheyer's lead too big to catch? I'm Hassan Pinto, and this is Blue Blood TV. Let's get into it.
The Blue Blood TV podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, guys, these shows grow when you share them. So we have a great show here. Share them with all your friends. Make them aware of the Blue Blood TV podcast.
Darryl, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Haas? It's been a while, man. What's going on?
It's good, man. I mean, I'm really, really, really loving this NIL. I mean, a lot of people are complaining about it, but as a basketball fan, a college basketball fan, you know, this season just doesn't end. Like, we're tracking everything, every move, every signing, everybody that comes on campus. And, you know, we're getting to the point where the 2026-27 rosters have been built. What are your thoughts, Darryl?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, right, in this era that we live in now of NIL and transfer portal, that college basketball specifically feels more like free agency now. It feels like an off season. And I think it adds an extra layer. I know traditionally people really enjoy seeing players stay for 3 or 4 years and seeing those players grow at the colleges and universities that they start at. But I think that we're just in a new era, man. We're in new traditions that we're building now, and it gets fun, it gets entertaining, it gets interesting to see players like Van Leuven last year, right, who go from even in interstate, interconference from one school to another in a rivalry like Carolina and State, and just watching to see how players grow, develop, and where they go next.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Darryl. This is so exciting. And, I wanted to start off talking about Rachel Baker. You know who she is, Darryl?
I know Rachel Baker. She's the GOAT, man.
Okay, so, well, I'm going to call her Rachel Baker, the Monopoly. I mean, Rachel has a background at Nike where she got this blueprint in terms of recruiting athletes. And Duke is landing guys like John Blackwell, Drew Shornowski from the portal. They're landing 5-star guys out of high school. What's the secret for Rachel, and why is she having so much success in this? I mean, can you tell me, what do you think?
Yeah, I really think that Duke, one, gave her free reign to perform as a GM, right? To have that almost like vice president of basketball operations type of role where she has the freedom to construct a roster. obviously working with John Scheyer, who's one hell of a recruiter. But I think that she's behind the scenes and she's actively going, and Duke got ahead of this. And they were one of the first schools to hit the ground running when it came to the transfer portal. And I think that they realized how important, how key it would be, especially over these last couple seasons with how many young players they had. I think they recognized how key it was for them to find other pieces with experience and maybe outsource doing that. And I think Rachel's doing a great job of finding a balance now between incoming freshmen and players who have come from other universities, gotten that big game experience, gotten the NCAA D1 experience, and pairing those people together to ultimately, hopefully, finally find their way to the precipice of a national championship.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. But what else do you think this guy over in Chapel Hill, Jim Tanner, do you think he has the moxie to catch up? Let me just tell you, Jim Tanner is a certified NBA agent, and he was the agent for legendary Hall of Famers such as Ray Allen, Tim Duncan, Grant Hill, Dominique Wilkins, Vince Carter. I mean, and Tar Heel notables like Raymond Felton, Tyler Hansborough, Marvin Williams, Wayne Ellington, Brandon Wright, Justin Jackson, Deion Thompson,
The
James
list
Michael
goes on,
McAdoo.
man. The list goes on, dude. We get it. We get it. We get it. Listen, I want to ask you a question. I think that Jim Tanner, I think it was a big, tall task, right? You're talking about disbanding a unit, all these players that entered the transfer portal from Carolina. You lost your head coach. You acquire a new coach in late March, early April, and you have to find a way to piece together some form of a roster. And I think that Jim Tanner, considering all of those deficits, I think he did an incredible job putting this roster together. So I definitely have to give him credit no matter what I think about Rachel. I won't compare the two at the moment, but I think that Jim did his thing as far as putting this roster together. But I think it's interesting as well as we talk about this shift in NIL and transfer portal, and the comparison that I did for the offseason to the NBA, right? I think it's interesting now that they have an NBA coach. Okay. And so I think that Mike Malone knows what it takes. He knows what it requires to put together a championship roster on the highest level, using pieces from other teams, using pieces and parts and trying to mesh them and put them together, acquire them, and ultimately win the national championship. And so I think it does benefit Jim Tanner. I think it benefits Carolina to also have a professional coach who has experience in the professional realm. And I think now we've moved towards a more professional amateur, professional type of vibe when it comes to college basketball and the NCAA.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, let me just go through who Jim Tanner and Michael Malone have landed right now. Let me just go through their roster construction. They've got Neocolis Avadalis, a junior transfer. He's a guard. They got Terrence Brown from Utah, senior transfer. That's depth. You got a junior, senior guys who have proven that they can score. Neocolis can score from Virginia Tech. Terrence Brown from Utah, he's put up 20 plus a game. And they're juniors and seniors who've been there before. At forward, we got a five-star freshman, Maximo Adams, five-star freshman, and another forward, Jaron Stevens, 6'10", 6'11", junior returning experience. And then at center, Malone is going with a Sayan Kaida. He's a freshman. He's an international pro from Barcelona. I mean, this looks like an NBA roster. I mean, think about it. You got Avadalis as a guard, 6'9", running the point. And then you've got a 7-footer, Kaida, at the rim. I mean, what do you think about that, Darryl?
Think 6'9" type style player sounds a bit familiar when it comes to this Tar Heel Blue Devil rivalry, right? We're talking Cooper Flag. Now, obviously, we're not talking this player being the magnitude of Cooper Flag, but I think that it's very interesting. And again, Mike Malone coming from the NBA and having a point center in Nikola Jokic, I think would definitely benefit him as far as style is concerned. And looking at the roster construction between these two teams, I think styles make fights. But what I want to ask you, Hassan, is looking at this roster, seeing how it's constructed, in 1 month's time, Do you think that this team has an opportunity, has the real shot at winning a national championship? Where do you think that they fall short right now? And what do you think their strengths are?
So I think their strengths, Darryl, is the depth, right? The guys that have been there before. The only freshman that's projected to start on this team is Kaida, right? So he is going to go into a Malone, Denver Nuggets spacing with a point forward type offense. Now, I think if Kaida can get into this quickly and really adopt Malone's vision for the game and how they want to play with the spacing, I think this team can go really far. I think this is going to be like one of those teams where you start out in November and you say, okay, we got depth, we got size, we've got everything. Now the group just has to blend, right? So like when I'm thinking about like key matchups, right? And for the 26-27 season against Duke. At center, Duke's got Cameron Williams, and we've got Seyon Kaida. I mean, these are 7-footers going at it like Duke Carolina from the past, where you have like the big boys. What are your thoughts on that, Darryl?
Yeah, I think with Cameron Williams coming in, this definitely and Gongba coming back, I do want to mention that because to not to
Do
get
you think
too
he's a
sidetracked.
starter?
I think that he puts actually I do think so. I think he puts Cameron Williams and Gongba together. I don't think Gongba comes back if he didn't think he was going to start this season, right? He's transitioned from that freshman year to his sophomore season. He started most games last year as a sophomore, and I think he wouldn't come back for his junior year if he didn't see and John Scheyer didn't pitch the opportunity for him to come back and be a big factor in his team.
Okay, but Darryl, Cameron Williams is the number one ranked American high school product in the
Yes, he
country.
is.
So,
Yes, he
like,
is.
how do you manage that? Like, I mean, you like Ngamba. I can finally say his name properly. I like Ngamba. I mean, but if you got Cameron Williams, are you really going to take a back seat being the number one player in the nation when you can go anywhere else and you can go to Connecticut and start? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, absolutely not taking the back seat, right? But I think that 7-footers might be one of the greatest things to ever happen to basketball, and especially college basketball. Having one 7-footer is critical, right? But what's better than having one 7-footer? Two. And I think that having Gongba and Cameron Williams both on the floor at the same time is going to pay dividends for Carolina. They've been dealing with Malik Brown, who was one hell of a player and is going to be tough to replace. And we'll get to one of those Belmont transfers here later, who I think might be the replacement for Malik Brown. But Malik Brown, even as a ferocious defender, an elite defender, he was like 6'9", right? And he made himself look bigger, but he couldn't put stilts on. Okay. And so I think having two 7-footers, right, two natural 7-footers will make a big impact on this defense. And ultimately, especially with Cameron Williams, because he's more of a scoring threat than Gongba is. I think having both of those will relieve him of his defensive duties sometimes on that end of the court and allow him to flourish on the offensive end while Gongba can hold it down as a defensive anchor.
Yeah, yeah. And you got, does Caleb Forster start on this team for you? Does Caden Boozer start on this team for you?
So Caleb Foster, man, I'm so glad you asked me about Caleb Foster. This is my favorite one, and I'm so disappointed that Will couldn't be here today. But Caleb Foster is my natural, typical glue guard that I love to talk about season after season. I think Caleb Foster starts. I think he starts only because he'll be a senior this season. I don't think he's the most talented guard on this team, and I don't think that he might be a top 2 or 3 talented guard on this team. But I do think that senior experience, as we've seen in the clutch moments for this Duke team in the last couple years, that senior experience is necessary, man. It's something that they've been yearning for, and I think that having him back is probably going to be the X factor as this team prepares to go for a national championship.
Okay, so who do you start? I mean, because look, the way I have it, and I have guard play. Caleb Forster is a starter. Darren Rippey is a starter. Caden Boozer is a starter. Bryson Howard is a starter. Cameron Williams is a starter. I mean, that's the way I see it. But how do you see it, Darryl?
So I'm going 2 smaller guards. Caleb Foster's floating around 6'5", but he's really probably more like 6'3", 6'4". So I'm looking at Caleb Foster. I'm looking at Darren Rippey Jr. also. And then I haven't mentioned yet, but Dame Sarr coming back is crucial for this team because they were lacking as far as their three small forward, as most people would call it, depth. And I think having Dame Sarr back again, that little bit of experience, putting Dame at the three will be beneficial for this team. So you're looking at Rippey, you're looking at Caleb Foster, you're looking at Dame Sarr, Cameron Williams, and then finishing it off with Gongba. Now, of course, you have freshmen. These lineups are going to change. John Scheyer likes to play with it. But I think to start the year, you're looking at experience paired with natural talent
Well, give
coming
me
in with these five-star recruits.
your two guard. Your
So we're Darren Rippey and then Caleb Foster at the two, and then I'm going Dame Sarr at the three, which is about 6'8". I'm going Cameron Williams as your four and Patrick Gongba as your five.
So you're gonna have a 7'1" as your four.
Absolutely, man. I don't know what's better than a 7-footer, and then I turn and I see another one. Now, I mean, I don't think you can get any better when it comes to that. And I think having Gongba again as your defensive anchor frees Cameron Williams up to be able to do what he needs to do on the offensive end. So I'd love to see how John Shire, because there's about 9 guys who I think could start on this team. There's several different rotations that you could form. I'd love to see how John Shire does it. But if my advice to him would be that starting lineup to start the year out.
So let me give you what you got down the road, okay? Point guard. I'm going to give you heights too. So let's look at these matchups, Darryl. Point guard. Nikolas Avadalis. He can shoot 6'9" as a guard.
We promised to get that name right by the end of the year. I'm like 100% sure that that's not exactly how you say it, but I love the fact that you're once again making an attempt at the most difficult name.
Look, Nikolas Avadalis. That's why Nikolas. That's what I'm going to call
okay,
him. Right?
Okay. You're actually getting this one pretty fast.
I got the height
You're getting
right.
it fast. You got it. Yep.
I got the height right. It's like my and Gungba, like
Gungba. Yeah. That's all good, Hosh. Keep going. I'm sorry. Keep going.
A 2 guard, Terrence Brown, 6'5", Darryl. Okay.
Yeah.
Small forward, Maximo Adams, 6'7". Okay.
Yeah.
Power forward, Jaron Stevens. They're listing them at 6'11". Okay.
Yeah.
And then a 7-foot center. I mean, that's an NBA looking roster. And the thing is, like, we've talked about it with Will, we've talked about it with others, that we haven't seen Carolina produce an NBA level roster in a while, right? Absolutely. And then off the bench, right? We're gonna have Malloy Smith, okay, 6'4" combo guard, 3-star. Matt Abel, he's another key transfer. Cade Berneman, 4-star big man, and Isaiah Dennis and Jaden Young. They're like guard forwards. I mean, but they're looking like they're in like more of a pro style setup. And he's got 4 decent players coming off the bench. And then when I look at Duke, I mean, you got Darren Rippey, you got Drew Sharnowski, you got Joaquin Bootim.
I knew that one was coming.
You got Bootim.
I knew that one was coming. I was waiting for you. I think you were avoiding it as long as you could.
Bryson Howard and Sebastian Wilkins. Darryl, how do you say it?
Listen, you and I are gonna be learning together, but we're gonna call him Boo Boo. We're gonna call him Joaquin Boo Boo for right now.
Joaquin Boo Boo.
Yeah, we're gonna call him Boo Boo for now, and I'm not talking about a picnic basket. Listen, I think that it's interesting, right? The roster that you just gave me for Carolina, and I think Mike again. I want to commend Mike Malone. I think that he and Jim Tanner have done an incredible job piecing together what could have been a disaster, but pulling that together and making it look like a formidable roster. But I do think Duke has not only do they have depth, not only do they have the 5-star recruits, but they've got the experience this year. The one piece that I think and I wish would have stayed would have been Nicholas Haminia. And he's out at UConn. Dan Hurley did an incredible job bringing him in. But that's another piece that's 6'8", Hassan, right? And you talk about Nicholas being 6'9", playing the guard, the one most of the time, or at least semi-consistently. And I think that when it comes to size, Dame Sarr is somewhere around there. But Nicholas Haminia, an incredible defender. not the best shooter that they thought they were bringing in, but an incredible, incredible elite defender would have been a great piece for them to add to this roster. Nevertheless, I think between Boo Boo, who's 6'11", Cameron Williams at what's listed at 7'1", but probably more like 6'11". And then also Meyer, right? We're not really talking too much about Maxime Meyer, but those three guys coming in, paired with the size that I mentioned earlier with Gongba, they give this team still that stature that they've had for the last couple seasons, but also more depth and experience than they've had over the last year or two.
Okay, Darryl, let's talk about the backcourt. Let's just break this thing down. Backcourt, experience versus length. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Duke features a backcourt, a good backcourt. Caden Boozer, right? Who you got? Caden Boozer.
You got Caden. You got Caleb Foster. We got Darren Rippey. We haven't even talked about John Blackwell too much from Wisconsin, but he averaged 19 a game at Wisconsin. Another nice guard to fill in that slot. So those four guys by themselves, and then also moving in Dame, as I mentioned earlier, who could play 2-3 sometimes as well, or excuse me, 3-2 sometimes as well. Those five. So you got Boozer, you got Caleb Foster, you got Dame, you got Darren Rippey Jr. Excuse me. And then Bryson Howard, also, big time freshman coming in. Those guys, I think, are going to be a solid group. That might be the five best as far as guards are concerned in the country. I do think Duke's backcourt this year is going to be a lot better than people are expecting. Again, because you're pairing that. Not only do you have that star power, right? Not 5-star power as Duke normally does. You've got depth. You've got players that could go to the NBA. And then you got guys that have hung around and will give them that glue guard experience. So I'm really interested in seeing what Duke does and what John Scheyer does with the rotation, considering the depth he has this season.
Okay, well, let's talk about UNC's unprecedented length. I mean, you've got a backcourt that's averaging 6'7", right?
Yeah.
And you got a guy on the ball that's 6'9" that can bring the ball up the field, can shoot it. And then you got a guy like Terrence Brown who's getting 20 points a game. I mean, 20 points a game at Utah versus getting 20 points a game in the Dean Dome is different. I mean, I've seen guys come to the Dean Dome and can't shoot, right? Like they can shoot everywhere else, but they can't shoot in the Dean Dome.
The lights are too bright.
The lights are too bright, right? But just from a size perspective, are you concerned? If you're Duke, are you concerned that, Darren Rippey, great point guard, fast, but he's small? Like, are you concerned about the potential height advantage?
Am I concerned? I don't. I guess I'm never concerned until we get into the season, right? Because as you mentioned, 6'9" looks great on paper. 6'9" looked pretty good at Virginia Tech at times, right? But 6'9" at Virginia Tech and 6'9" in the Dean Dome are two totally different things. When you mentioned Terrence Brown, he's not as big, but like you said, almost a 20-point per game scorer. But what does that look like on the ACC level? What does that look like on the national scale when you're playing the greatest of competition year or day in, night out? And I have questions about that for UNC's current roster because it is highly constructed with players who come from smaller schools. And that is still to be determined as far as my fear. But I'm very confident in Duke and the size of these guards that we have, because while they might not be 6'9", they're mostly still 6'4", 6'5", which is still a very, very solid stature as far as a one is concerned. And they're very strong guards. Looking at Caleb Foster and Dame Sarr at 6'8", I think that Duke is going to be able to hold their own no matter who Carolina puts on the floor.
So do you see a Boozer, Foster as the anchors at the point guard? Do you think they'll have like a multi-role, or do you think they'll play together, or do you think they're going to be rotating based on who's hot or not?
Yeah, I think this is where John Scheyer gets paid millions of dollars. I don't know the answer. I think it's hard to really determine that at this point. I think John Scheyer has to have some sort of an idea in his head, but I'd rather have too many than not enough. And so I think that he plays with those rotations, guards specifically, throughout the beginning of the year, trying to figure out what's the best fit. But I think that it does benefit Duke that they have 5 to 6 guards who could start at any school in the country. And figuring out how to piece that together, I think is easier than figuring out how to recruit for the next season because you didn't have enough this year.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Sion Keita, right? Spanish guy. He's playing at Barcelona. He's got some pro experience, 7 foot. He's 18 years old, but he still has to grow into his body. This guy is looking like he is, maybe 1-2 years ready for the NBA, or maybe one and done and ready for the NBA. My question to you is, do you think a guy who obviously hasn't grown into his body yet is going to be ready for this type of competition? What do you think? I mean, they say he's a good rim protector. He's got good skills. He's a Euro player. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm a firm believer in this man's about to get knocked the F out, right? I think that he's going to have to get into that weight room, and there's a substantial difference on the next level, right? So you go from high school to a high level D1 college, and I think there's a substantial difference when it comes to the weight room training facilities. So he's going to have to get in there early and start packing on pounds, start lifting with the trainers at Carolina. And then I think, obviously from college to pros, there's another level up. But from high school to college, he's definitely going to have to get in there early, get prepared, because it's a long season. They're playing almost 40 games. And, night in, night out, you could be dealing with, especially when you look at guys like Patrick Gongba, you could be dealing with 250-pound mammoths inside. And so I think that getting beat up on a nightly basis, you need to come in and be prepared for that. And I think the best way to get prepared is to get to that school early, to get in the weight room, get with the trainers, get on a diet, get on a good regimen, and then build your stature, build that weight, but do it in a healthy way. And ultimately, I think he's able to sustain that long term, but that initial shock factor is going to be something that remains to be seen.
So, Darryl, do you know that analysts are saying that Keita is the number 1 undisputed center in the entire class? I mean, this guy's 7 foot with a 7'5" wingspan. And they're saying, yes, he does have to grow into his body. They're saying, yes, he does have to get stronger. But the one thing he can do right now is protect the rim. And they're looking at him as a 1, 2, 3 lottery pick. And to go along with that type of experience, I mean, look at the guys they're surrounding this kid with. I mean, you're surrounding this kid with good basketball players, right? Jaron Stevenson is a good basketball player, right? Maximo Adams is a 5-star. Terrence Brown and Neoclis Abadalis, right? I probably didn't get it right, but I mean, these are seasoned college basketball players, right? And he's going into a season with 3 guys on that starting lineup that have played major minutes, have seen it. And if he can just protect the rim, and Maximo can go get some points, Carolina might be cooking.
Duke Carolina fans, download Duke Carolina, the Blue Blood Rivalry film on iTunes or Apple TV or wherever you get your VOD downloads.
Hey, Quinn. Quinn, you know you my guy, right? I'm always putting for you. Tonight, when you step on the court, I step on the court too. And we in it.
Only 2 games that night. It's the North Carolina game at Duke and the Duke game that's at North Carolina.
When we wake up on game day, there's a knot in my stomach. We've been up since 6 a.m. this morning watching recorded Duke Carolina games.
I watched the Rivers shot
about 15 times.
Yeah.
Rivers on his own. Yes, at the buzzer.
We're here for the Duke game.
And it is 10 hours and 9 minutes until game time.
The Blue Devils win 85-84.
Nothing better than North Carolina and Duke. It is the best rivalry in all of college basketball. Hall of Fame coaches, great players, and usually so much at stake.
And that's it. Carolina's won it. The fans have as much to do with the rivalry being great as the players and the coaches.
5 hours before game time.
Well, there's no question that the rivalry is there every day in our community.
Can you imagine what it would be like around here if people didn't have it? It would be terrifying.
We are 30 minutes away from tip-off.
It's one of the most exciting events you can be a part of, and I still say it's not the biggest rivalry in college basketball. It's the biggest rivalry in all of sport, bar none.
It's game time!
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not questioning his ability to defend, right? We know he's, even from the scouts, he's an elite defender. He can move his feet on the perimeter. He's an extremely good rim protector. I don't think there's any questions about that. But also, when you're down there and you're banging with big bodies, that can take a toll on you. And so while I know what the scouts say, I know what he does well at the moment, I wonder what that looks like once you've been beat up a couple times, right? And how well do you prepare your body? And so I think there's still questions about that going into the season, but I think he has time to get ready. I think what I'm interested in seeing is, what does Carolina's guard play look like against Duke's? And I know we've talked about this, but I do want to ask you, because I've said a lot today. I'm curious. What do you think their guard situation is going to look like? Who do you think they will start? And who do you think will emerge maybe as a dark horse later on in the year when it comes to being an X factor for this team?
Okay, so guard play, Carolina, I think it's pretty simple, right? It's Neocolis and Terrence, right? A junior and a senior, right? You got a junior and a senior guard. You got an average height of 6'7". You got a 6'9" point guard, right? Now, the question is, like, who's like Carolina's sixth man, right? I think, and you're going to love this one, Darryl, the key transfer from State, Matt Abel, is the sixth guy off the bench here. And he's going to provide elite perimeter relief for those backcourt starters. He's going to be able to shoot the ball. He can shoot the ball because he already did it in the ACC over at NC State. Right. And then I think Malloy Smith, I think he's gritty. He's 6'3", 6'4". He's going to bring in some defensive energy. He comes from, an NBA background with his dad being Kenny Smith. I mean, I think those two guys are going to help that backcourt. And I think they're going to know their roles, right? Like, so the biggest concern I have for Duke is who starts, right? Like, I have some scouts saying, in my book, that Darren Rippey doesn't start, right? Some people think it's going to be Boozer and Foster, right? But the Carolina scenario, it's pretty clear, right? Abel is coming off the bench. Malloy Smith is going to get the minutes that he deserves, okay? And your point guards are Neocolis and Terrence. Those are your guys. Right.
Yeah, I guess I think it's interesting because I find it most interesting because you have a little experience coming back, right? You've got Jaden Young, you got Isaiah Dennis. And so I'm wondering where do they fit in now? These guys decided to return to the school after a mass exodus. You had Derek Dixon leave, Jonathan Powell, Kyan Evans, Zayden High, Bogovac left. Now you lost most of your roster, right? And so I think players, in this case, Dennis and Young, who decided to return, I'm wondering, just as much as you were wondering with me, does Caleb Foster come back and start? So these guys, where do they find their roles this season for this team, considering they've already been here for a season or two?
So in my opinion, Isaiah Dennis and Jaden Young, guard and a forward, right?
Yeah.
They're just going to be athletic pieces in the backcourt, so that Malone can maintain his pro-style pace throughout the game, right? So I think Malone's going to run. I think he's going to go. I think he's going to play through his big men. So I think right now he's going to make Neocolis his point forward. where he's got the size to distribute that ball over, under, and underneath. And I think he's going to send his wings running, right? So I think Isaiah Dennis and Jaden Young just provide depth at forward and at guard, right? Then we didn't talk about a 4-star signing. His name is Cade Betterman, right? And he's going to provide length, rebounding, and he's going to come in behind Stevenson and Keita just to come in and bang. And he's a 4-star center, dude. And I believe he's about 7 foot. Okay. And so for me, your serviceable benches, Abel, Malloy Smith, Cade Betterman, Isaiah Dennis, and Jaden Young, right? Malloy Smith and Matt Abel are coming off the bench to provide versatility. I think Matt Abel is going to be the top guy off the bench. I think he's a key 6-man. That's just going to be the one that Malone looks to when things aren't going right or when he needs a different look on the field. I think Malloy Smith is going to come in as like a 3-star combo guy, bring some grit, defensive energy to the second unit when needed.
Let me say this real quick, Hassan, and I want to just be candid with you, man. Listen, I think that if Malloy Smith's dad's first name wasn't Kenny, last name wasn't Smith, this guy would not be playing at Carolina. So I hear what you're saying when it comes to that. I think Carolina's problem is that they lost so many people, Basar being like the latest piece that they lost, that it's just going to be difficult to compete with Duke because Duke typically is, in the last couple of seasons, we've grown accustomed to Duke shipping them out and bringing them in, right? But this year, they still kept 3 to 4 pieces that were utilized frequently last year, that were core pieces to their roster last year. And so I think the biggest difference with this Duke team this season now is that they have guys who stayed around, guys who know the system and can help show the new guys the way. I think also Carolina's biggest deficit is that while they have talent at the top, it just falls quickly as you go down the roster. And if you're relying on Malloy Smith at this point to be somebody who is a key piece, you're in trouble.
Well,
you're in trouble.
Darryl, look, point guard. I'm going to give you a possible Duke lineup, right? Point guard, Caden Boozer. Shooting guard, John Blackwell. Small forward, Damon Sarr. Power forward, Cameron Williams. And center, Patrick Ngongwa. That's the lineup you like, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Love it. I love it.
Okay. Nikoklis, Avadalis, I'm giving UNC the nod. Okay. 6'4", John Blackwell, Terrence Brown. I'm giving Terrence Brown the nod only because he's already played we know what we're going to get. Okay. Maximo Adams.
We can't just disrespect John Blackwell like that. I mean, this is a guy that averaged 19 a game at Wisconsin. So I think 19 essentially is what your guy averaged at 19 to 20 at Utah, Terrence Brown. I think the 19 at Wisconsin, they probably wash each other out. But
Okay. Wash. Damon Sarr versus Maximo Adams. 5-star.
TBD.
6'8".
TBD.
To be determined, right?
TBD.
Cameron Williams versus Jaron Stevenson.
Cameron Williams, 6'11"
versus 6'10".
Yeah, Cameron Williams. I'm sorry, technically the number 1 player in the country, but the number 2 player in the class. Cameron Williams. I'm taking Cameron Williams.
Okay. And Ngongwa versus Keita.
I really like Ngongwa, but I have to see what Keita comes in and does. Is that how you say it? Is it Keita or Keita?
It's either one. It's either one right now until we know.
Hey, man, listen, we're gonna have to come up with nicknames.
Is it Sayon? Is it Sayon or Sion? Is it Sayon?
We got Boo Boo.
Sion.
We got Neo. We're gonna have a bunch of characters this season, and I think that it's gonna. I do think that it's gonna be a much more interesting and entertaining season, hopefully, than last year was towards the end. Man, I really enjoyed Caleb Wilson, but that team without Caleb Wilson looked like a shell of themselves. And now they have even less pieces, and they've gained some things in the transfer portal. They have a couple guys coming in from their recruiting class, but I just don't see. I really see a a gap right now between Carolina and Duke. And I'm not just saying that as the Duke guy. I'm very much saying that objectively. And I think it's TBD. A lot of it is TBD when it comes to Carolina. And Mike Malone, what does that look like? The roster, what does that look like? I think that is TBD. And right now, Duke is more secure and they're more stable. And so you're going to have to ask me again the same questions that you're asking me right now. I might be able to answer them better 2 to 3 weeks into the season, but right now it's hard to predict, man. It's hard to predict.
So Darryl, I have Caleb Foster. I think he's going to end up off the bench, but I really think Caleb Foster should start. Okay, Darren Rippey is going to be off the bench. Bryson Howard off the bench. Joakim Buntum off the bench, and Drew Sharnowski off the bench. So if Scheyer can manage this, okay, I actually think Caleb Foster should start, but I would actually go Boozer and Foster. That'd be
I was going to ask you who he should start over. So you think Boozer Foster should be the 1-2?
Yeah, I think they got a lot of experience. I think they're 5 stars just like those other guys. I mean,
and I agree. I think he should start. I think they could start those 2 guys and start the year because of the experience. But I think 3 to 4 weeks into the season, it's going to be clear that Darren Rippey Jr. is the best guard on that team.
Well, I don't think he starts. I don't think he starts. I
agree. I could agree with that considering the experience.
Yeah, I don't think he starts, right? And so with Carolina, Matt Abel is good. Isaiah Dennis, Jaden Young, Cade Brenneman, and Maxim Logue. I think you guys got the better bench. Bench goes to you.
I agree. I agree. Duke is way deep. It's much deeper than Carolina is this season.
Much deeper. But Carolina has a good team.
Yeah, they have a good team, but they're not standing next to Duke. It's like being the smartest kid in your class, and then you go to you're doing the spelling bee for your class, right? You guys are qualifying for the national spelling bee, and man, you killed it. You were number 1. And you get to the national spelling bee and you realize Scripps National Spelling Bee, when you're standing next to a bunch of kids who can spell things that you and I can't even pronounce on this show, now all of a sudden we're both looking like dum-dums. And so I think Carolina this season they might look good against a lot of teams, but against Duke, they're going to look like dum-dums.
Here's my verdict. I think overall depth starting lineup goes to Duke. Okay?
Yeah.
The spoiler, who has the highest ceiling? And I'm thinking with Mike Malone's schemes, a 6'9" point guard, and the size that this guy is bringing, he's bringing like an NBA-sized team. I think Carolina's ceiling could be higher, right? Because you're taking the number 1 center in college basketball from Barcelona. I mean, the way he starts in November is not going to be the way he looks in April, March.
Yeah,
right?
There's definitely potential there.
No, Darryl. The ceiling is higher for Carolina.
And you're looking at it upside down.
No. The ceiling's higher for Carolina. You guys have a better overall team, but not that much better. That's what I think.
Okay. So the ceiling, I won't disagree. I won't disagree with that. I think that the potential is untapped, right? I think that we don't know what Mike Malone's system is going to look like. So yeah, I mean, you could be right. Maybe the ceiling is exponentially higher for Carolina than I anticipate. But also, I think the floor is much lower too. And I think that Duke's floor is way higher than Carolina's floor is. Carolina could look like a great team in March, or they could be going home early, missing the NCAA tournament.
Not this team is not going home early. This is a good team, Darryl. Stop.
I think TBD. That's my phrase of the day. TBD.
I think the big question mark in the room is Scheyer. Okay, we've had 2 back-to-back seasons where the coach of Duke. We could argue that Duke could have been the national champions 2 seasons in a row. We can make that argument.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay? Now, I think we have to discuss Jon Scheyer's adaptability. Is he capable of managing this type of roster? This roster is not as exciting as the roster 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, no, I don't think we've seen a roster like that maybe since one of those Kentucky teams Calipari had.
Correct, right? But A to B, it might have more talent, right? Because 2 years ago, your freshmen were just coming in and starting. Here this year, we don't know, right? We don't know what that team looks like in March, April, right? 2 years ago,
that's a scary thing.
That's a scary thing, right? 2 years ago, we kind of knew what we had at Duke. But my question is, are we going to see the greatness of Scheyer, or are we going to be having a conversation about, well, can he manage these players? Did he prepare well enough? I mean, did he get his troops prepared well enough? Did he use his bench enough? I think these are the questions we're going to ask is, did Jon Scheyer develop his non-starters enough so that they could give him something in March, right? The question that we're going to have is, can he keep a locker room, $20 million in his locker room happy? The question we're going to ask is, did they over-recruit? Because you can over-recruit, Darryl. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, once again, phrase of the day, TBD, first of all. TBD on all those questions you just asked about Jon Scheyer. But what I will say is, and I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but this is the year that makes or breaks Jon Scheyer, right? This is the excuse the last couple of years has been the teams were young. They were inexperienced. The team with Cooper Flagg fell short because they were young. They missed free throws. They couldn't get the ball in bounds. This past team, they fell short because Caden Boozer couldn't get the ball past half court, right? Now, you don't have that. You have guys with experience. You have guys that at this point you should have developed. And so if Jon Scheyer, and you have talent still, you have talent coming in through the recruiting class, number 1 recruiting class once again this season. So where do you find an excuse this season for Jon Scheyer if they don't find a way to win at all? It can't be the experience. It can't be lack of talent. It has to be Jonathan Scheyer, man. And I'm telling you now, and I want to say this because I said it last year about Hubert Davis, that he would be on the hot seat, that he might find his way out of Carolina this season if it didn't go as planned, because he had one great year that really was just a half a season where he found a great run to get to that natty and ultimately lose to Kansas. But now Jon Scheyer is finding himself in a similar situation. More wins, more ACC titles, sure, but still not the coveted national championship. And when you pay $20 million for a team, hell, man, that's more than some of these rookies are making that left Duke this year, that left Duke last year. Now you're paying guys who are supposed to be bringing you championships. And if you're paying $20 million, you better have a $20 million deal in the Final Four, and you better have a national championship by the end of it.
Yeah, Darryl, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, he can't say, well, our players are young. He does. He has vets on that team, and we're gonna consider Boozer a vet. Okay,
Boozer, Gongbug, Foster, Sarr, those are all vets at this point in college basketball.
And he has 5 stars. How many? He has 4 of them? 3 or 4?
Yeah.
And then and then you got to talk about what they did in the portal. I mean, Duke didn't sit back. Like, they went in the portal and they were pretty efficient. Would you agree?
Absolutely. We didn't even talk about Skarnowski, but so much. But I think that
let's talk about him briefly. Go ahead.
Yeah, they bring him in. He's not an incredible scorer. He's not a points guy. He's going to be, as I talked about with Malik Brown going out, Skarnowski coming in is going to be that replacement. He's going to be that guy who gets his hands in the mix, right? Who's going to be a great defender, who's going to be a great team guy. But again, I take Skarnowski as a prime example of this team this year is just different than what they've constructed in the past. Malik Brown was one of very few transfers that Duke has used over the past 2 seasons. This year, they have Skronowski. They've got a couple of those guys that are transferring in, like I mentioned earlier, Blackwell, who are going to play their own roles, whether it's Blackwell as a scorer or Skronowski as a defensive anchor, who are playing their roles with the experience behind them. And so it just goes into Jon Scheyer's make or break season is this year, because if you find yourself 3 years in a row with national championship contending and ultimately probably potentially national championship winning teams, and you don't find a way to do it, those fingers that he's been pointing at, that have been pointing everywhere else but Jon Scheyer, those will now turn to Jon, and Jon might find his way out of here, Hassan.
Yeah, well, listen, Skronowski, I mean, the rap on him is this guy's got a motor. This guy is going to be energy. Like, he's going to play forward center. He's going to rebound. He's going to
Malik Brown 2.0. Remember I said Malik Brown 2.0.
But they're saying his motor's bigger than Malik's, and he's more active on the boards, right? So, yeah, I mean, you got this guy, and then you got Joakim Booten. Did I get it right, Darryl?
Boo boo. I don't think you did, but we're gonna be okay with that for now. We'll get it right by the time.
Let me give you a little fact on him. He's a 17-year-old, and I think he's a wild card, Darryl, because he's a phenom, right? With a really high ceiling. So the question is going to be, does Jon Scheyer play him enough, right? What if we see streaks of brilliance on this guy? Is this guy going to sit back and sit on the bench? I think the problem for Jon Scheyer is Skronowski, Joakim Booten, Bryson Howard, right? 5-star wing, okay? Yep. Massive defensive versatility. Rippy, lightning fast, 5-star freshman. To me, that's a lot of ego, don't you think, Darryl?
Yeah, and you know what? I will give Jon Scheyer credit, because I feel like one thing that he has been good at with these teams, if from observing, obviously outside looking in, is that he's good at balancing his players. He's good at keeping the team chemistry where it needs to be, at least from the outside. Again, the outside looking in, he's taken a lot of profound players and has maximized the effort that he's getting from these guys, and ultimately the team chemistry and the team morale seems to be exceptional.
Okay, Darryl, let's do a little face-off, right? This is for you and I, right? GM versus GM. Who do you want, Baker or Tanner?
Give me Baker.
I think Jim Tanner's legacy will be written this year. Last year, no, because he wasn't armed with the financial incentives to get the right players here or have the proper coach in place to bring the right players here. I think this year, the legacy of Jim Tanner as the GM has the potential to go through the roof, because I think if the guys he brought in are as good as I think they are, I think the Carolina-Duke rivalry is back, Darryl.
You know, Hassan, I would love to agree with that, but I can't wait until next season to say, Hassan, you remember when I said TBD? Well, now it's just D, and that D is for the Duke Blue Devils dogging the Tar Heels.
No, Darryl, come on now.
Yeah, I don't think it's close. I don't think it's close, but I'm gonna say TBD for now.
No, I think it's Darryl. It's not only close. You could actually lose both games next year. The ceiling on the Carolina basketball team is much higher. The size on the Carolina team, they're bigger. They pose matchup issues. I am so excited about this 2026-27 season. I'm so excited that we're having this show in May 8th, and having a show on college basketball, which tells you that the NIL era is here. And, and with that, Darryl, we're going to wrap episode 18. The blueprints are out. The bank accounts are open. And the 26-27 season is shaping up one for the history books, Darryl. I think Carolina is going to go deep into the playoffs, deep into the Final Four, And whether you're riding for Malone Tanner, which I'm riding for, or Scheyer Baker, the modern machine, one thing is clear. In the 919, in the Raleigh, the Durham, the Chapel Hill area is the undisputable capital of college hoops. Huge thanks to Darryl. Hope Will feels better. And Darryl, thank you for keeping the kitchen hot with a few hot takes. I appreciate that.
That's what I'm going to do. If I'm going to do one thing, Haas, I'm going to cook.
Yeah, you got to cook, man. Keep cooking, Darryl. And if you enjoyed the debate, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And also, come on, guys, leave us that 5-star review. It's the best way for us to help keep the rivalry conversation going nationwide. For the daily clips, recruiting, you can find us on Instagram. You can find us Blue Blood Rivalry on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. And we'll be back next week. If anything happens in this rivalry over the summer, we will be back. Right, Darryl? We're going to be back?
We will be back. Yes, I'll be back to cook once again.
Okay, yes. Keep cooking, Darryl. I'm Hassan Pinto with Darryl Brunson. And we're going to remind you that the rivalry, there's only 2 shades of blue, but there's only one winner, Darryl. Darryl, you know who's only going to be the winner next year?
Fans.
Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Mike Malone.
Yeah, you know what? The D I mentioned earlier, the TBD, the D is for delusional.
Well, Darryl, then we're going to see you at tip-off, man. I'll see you at tip-off. And as we always say, what do we say, Darryl? How do we get out of this?
We out.
We out.
TV podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, guys, these shows grow when you share them. So we have a great show here. Share them with all your friends. Make them aware of the Blue Blood TV podcast.
The handshake deals are a memory. The loyalty of the old guard, that's a luxury of the past. Welcome to the era of the arms race. In the 919, the battle for the future isn't just happening on the hardwood, it's happening in the bank accounts. Down in Durham, it's the machine, a proven system, and the steady hand of John Scheyer reloading for another run. But in Chapel Hill, the blueprint has been ripped up.